Welcome to Adventures of a Wallflower with JD Morgan. I am your host, JD Morgan, and on this episode entitled Becoming Comfortable with the Uncomfortable, I will be giving a background, my personal details, and the reasons why I'm starting this podcast. Now, in this only episode, I will give my full name, which is Besrick Morgan, and I'm going by my author name, JD Morgan, going forward. I've actually recently turned 35 years old on December 1st. I am Jamaican and I'm living in Trinidad and Tobago. Funny enough, the only thing I wanted for my birthday on December 1st was to write letters to people, I care about, thanking them for being my life and for the things that I've learned from them, to show gratitude. As the title of the podcast would suggest, I am an introvert. I mostly stick to the background, observing, not so much social, although I can be very social and extroverted when really needed to, but I'm mostly an introvert. Yes. And yes, I am from Jamaica, and I'm probably the most quiet Jamaican you've ever seen. Been living in Trinidad and Tobago for almost a bit more than 10 years. Actually moved to Trinidad back in 2007 to study computing with a emphasis in software systems. Went to the University of the Southern Caribbean, where I finished around 2012 with a bachelor's in the computing and associate degree in general business. And in the same breath, in 2012, when I actually finished university, I actually went back home for a while. And one year, and during that year, I was pretty much not doing anything at all. Trying to find jobs, trying to find my purpose, and that was a bit of a hell. Just was a difficult time, but eventually I came back to Trinidad in 2014, and I've been pretty much working as a executive assistant in one of my cousin's business, and moving up, I became IT/accounts officer. Funny enough, I did accounts back in high school, and we had CXC. I did principles of accounts. Actually got a 1, and I did not pursue that. And funny enough, work brought me back to it. I was more pushing towards the computing stuff, but work brought me back to the accounts, and I started studying ACCA. That has been a challenge with work and everything. Yep. But alright, so a little disclaimer, since this is technically my first podcast or really recording of any kind like this in this type of format, so I expect it to be a bit rough, especially in the first episode. So please do bear with me, and hopefully we can grow with each other while I share my experiences being an author and introvert, and the adventures a person so-called being a wallflower has experienced. Right? let's get on to the reasons why. So, as you see, I'm not very comfortable with my voice. That is my first. So, I'm doing this to get more comfortable with my voice and gain a bit more confidence. And as I noticed, I am an author and flash poet. I've actually released a book called Silent Love this year, February 2nd, 2024. And I've started also doing a little performances. So I believe this podcast should help in that regard as well. And being a quiet person, my voice tend to always be a bit not entirely loud, or I should say the projection of my voice hasn't been very great. So this is to help with that as well. And to deal with anxiety. Yes, do suffer from that a lot. I do worry a lot about the future because I've been thinking about doing this podcast for like quite a while. I actually did a course in TV short podcasting with in June, and I've only recently actually like started to research how to do a podcast and all these stuff. And today I just like, yeah, I need to get this out of my way. I've been waiting too long. And the only reason I started was because I was listening to another podcast. So, and that inspired me to actually push through and actually create this. So I'm hoping I could also inspire others as well. Possibly people who want to write their own books, whether it be a collection of poetry or even a novel. Maybe I could, provide some insight somewhere. And then, lastly, but not least, to get my thoughts out of my head. I think a lot. A lot of time I'm like very aloof because of the amount of stuff that is going on inside my head. So I believe this podcast would be a great way to, get those thoughts organized, share with others. Maybe they might have an opinion that may help me. I may have a thought that may help you as well. So I'm going to be as honest as possible. I mean, that is my mantra anyway. I'm a person of honesty, truth, kindness, and just want to share my experience. Okay. Alright. And as my the title of this episode says, becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable. That is my mantra from now on, and I believe this will be my tagline going forward. Alright, so thank you for listening this week. Do hope to be back next week with episode 2, where I'll talk a bit more about myself being an author and most likely the journey just before. So I'll just give us a quick read or snippet of what my book is about, so you could possibly research in it beforehand, and we'll delve deeper into the chapters. So, The Silent Love, a collection of thoughts and imagery conveyed through words, by J.D. Morgan. Synopsis: join a young man on a vibrant and diverse adventure through an enchanting tale. In The Silent Love, Author J.D. Morgan offers a collection of captivating poems that vividly depict his escapades and intricately explore his character. What becomes of a dream deferred that lingers beneath the surface? The lover who feels unseen and unnoticed, who gives his all as most stories begin. This as a haunting chill in the mind, as the lover tries to express his desires and feelings professedly. There is an internal struggle within. He's stressed with work as he strives to navigate daunting days ahead for the will to live. His sleeves always betray his heart. In the sun his eyes lie. She was his break but was caught up in her world and she never understood. Indeed, he'll find a way in finding his way. With themes of intimacy and romance, The Silent Love is a compilation of love poems to you, to me, and to the ones we hold dear in our hearts. And I am JD Morgan. Thank you for listening to Adventures of a Wallflower. See you next week.